Welcome back to the QORcast Extras, and as a celebration to the Elden Ring DLC coming out on Thursday, June 20th, I've decided to do a small little tier list on the Shard Bearers bosses only. So I know these are morely the main bosses, or the more important ones, the bigger ones. So I decided to just do this because if we did all the bosses, it'd be a little bit longer. So I decided to do a nice little quick video in celebration of the new DLC. So first, we have Rykard. Rykard's overall design is pretty sick. I do like it. I like his first phase and second phase. It is a really cool design when it comes to fighting him and seeing him. I do like the arena. I think the arena really sets and fits his character when it comes to it. So when it comes to that, I do really think he is a really fun fight. I do like his second phase, and I like the cinematic where he takes out the sword. I think, honestly, it was one of the most sick second phase introduction I think I've ever seen. So I do really like it. I would have to start him as a strong A. The only thing I have against him, and that kind of really annoys me, is that it's not forced. Of course, you can beat the boss without using the weapon, but it felt like you were forced, or not forced, but pushed more than anything to use the weapon, and I really don't like that. I want to fight him with however I want. If I want to fight him like a dex build, a strength build, if I want to use a torch to just fight him, let me use it. But it felt like I was pushed to use the weapon, and I really didn't like that. I don't like bosses that do that. It's kind of unfun. But yeah, overall, I think he is still a fun fight, and I still would rank him pretty high when it comes to as a boss fight. Next is Radahn. Honestly, I think Radahn is the closest to a perfect boss fight you can ever have. Lore, arena, design, the way his fights are, movesets go, everything about him is just honestly one of the best. I think there was little to no issues to him. I don't think so I had an issue with him. It was just maybe like sometimes where he would just clip somewhere and he would just bug out, and sometimes where I would roll, or sometimes his hitbox made no sense. So maybe that's a little bit of a gripe, but to be honest with you, I've loved everything about him. His lore is really sick. He was hailed as one of the strongest characters in Elden Ring. He unfortunately succumbed to Scarlet Rot that unfortunately forced him to go mindless. And I really like the arena. As you walk into the castle, you see everyone fighting, and they want to give Radahn, out of respect, a warrior's goodbye. So seeing him go out and fighting him, honestly, it is the only time where maybe summoning people was the right thing to do just because of lore reasons, and I really would put him high up there. Mohg. I really had a lot of fun with Mohg. I think he was honestly one of the more fun fights in the game. When it comes to like his lore, his design, his fighting style, he's like the Lord of Blood, so it's blood and flames. I really did enjoy, and his arena is not like crazy big, and it kind of fit him. I really did enjoy his boss fight. His second phase was definitely brutal, don't be wrong, and the Neo, you know, if you don't have the physic where you can avoid that, it's kind of tough, but when you do, it's kind of manageable. I do really enjoy his boss fight. It took me forever to beat him. I think I died, I would say, a little under 100 or around 100 times just to beat him. So he was definitely a difficult boss. I always felt like, oh, it was the game's fault. It was always my fault that I lost or died. So it was a punishing, but also a good mix of difficulty and fighting. And his OST, one of the best. It's one of the sickest, greatest thing ever. Malenia. Malenia is a good boss. Don't be wrong. I really like her as a boss. It's just that it was more of just, I mean, she's basically a player. They were building full decks, but I didn't have an issue with her. She was fun. She was nice. Her first and second phase are basically the same thing in my opinion. It was just her second phase had more Scarlet Rot and had 2 extra moves. I think that was it. So when you beat her on her first phase, you kind of already understood what her second phase is. You just got to get used to the other 2 movesets. Overall, I mean, the arena you fight her in is really nice. Like the flowers everywhere. It's really sick. Overall, I do think she's a fun boss. But nothing too special. Yeah, I get it. People hail her as a hard boss. She is a very hard boss. Don't get me wrong. She's a very hard boss. But in my opinion, she was just a good boss when it comes to it. Morgott. Morgott the Fell Omen. So when you fight him in the beginning, he is a good beginning boss, and I really did enjoy fighting him in the beginning. But when you fight him again as the Fell Omen, he becomes definitely tough, because he's like the first test of how long you fought him since you first met him. It shows like, hey, did you actually retain any skills? Did you improve upon him? And he was a really good fight. And then his second phase is really sick. I really did enjoy fighting him. I think he was honestly a really cool fight. Again, he's not a crazy good or a crazy memorable one, but I do think that he was just a fun fight overall. Malekith, the best. I think Malekith easily had to be one of the greatest bosses, in my opinion, ever. He could have, it was a most perfect boss you can ever ask. The first phase was great. He was always attacking. I know he's a glass cannon basically, but when it comes to it, every time I died, I never blamed the game for it or was like, oh man, that's stupid, I definitely dodged. No, it was a test of your skill, and when it came to it, it was a really, really good fight. His design is great. The arena you fight him is amazing. The OST is one of the best. It just was honestly such an amazing fight. In my opinion, he is the perfect boss. You cannot deny it. I will die on a hill on that. He is the perfect boss when it comes to design, OST, arena, the difficulty, compared to the fun. It was just amazing. Elden Beast. Now, I do like when you fight in his first stage. He is fun. He was really, really good. If it was his first stage alone and that was it, I'd probably put him in S tier. But just due to the fact that his Elden Beast form is just not fun to fight. I feel like, yeah, the cinematic around it, the arena is really sick, but it was more of just a stamina fight. It's like, oh, you just have to run across the field. It was, the best way I could describe it is, it's a horse fight where you have to get on a horse, but you didn't have it. And it was just a bunch of, all right, I'm going to waste my entire stamina just getting to him, do 1 or 2 hits, and then he just leaves. Or now I have to wait for him to come to me so then I can run around him and then dodge him and do all that. It was just not a fun fight, in my opinion. It was just overall just boring. But if it was just his first stage, I would definitely put him in S tier. Such a fun fight. Perfect. It was the collection of everything you learned from the game, all put into one boss fight, if we're talking about just his first stage. But his second stage kind of ruined it, in my opinion. Still a good boss fight overall, but kind of ruined it. So I would put him on B tier. Horaloo. Horaloo is very underrated, in my opinion, as a boss fight. He is a very good balance of, he is difficult, but in the same time, he is fun. His first stage, you already kind of fight the spirited version of him, so you kind of know what he's doing, and you kind of know it, but it felt more menacing when you first go against him in his first stage. His attacks seem a little bit different, even though they're basically the same. The patterns of it is different, and it's really, really good. But when he turns to Horaloo, when he removed the lion, which if you guys don't know in the lore version, the reason he has that lion is to basically not make him bloodthirsty anymore. But because he's losing, he gets rid of the lion and becomes his true self. And his second phase is definitely, fighting it for the first time was a stress. And I do think that when it comes to it, he was a great fight overall. I think he was really, really fun. And the lore behind him was really good. How he was respected by everyone. He was still feared even years after the war. It was really, really good. And I honestly think he was a great boss fight. So S tier. Godric the Gafford. Alright. For a beginning boss, I think he was fun. I think for an early stage boss, he was good. He's not really difficult, to be honest with you. He was kind of not that hard, to be honest. And he was pretty good. I think when it comes to it, he was just a good boss for beginners and early game, just to really test you and see how far you've come from the game. So overall, he's a B. I mean, his second entrance alone, or when you first fight him, he's like, I command thee, kneel. Sick as hell. That was honestly a great introduction to him as a character. He was really good. But overall, I think he was just an okay fight. He wasn't crazy. He wasn't hard. He wasn't difficult. He wasn't anything too much to worry about. His arena was okay. His second phase is just him, but with a dragon on his hand, which, to be honest with you, kind of was easier to fight than his first stage. I think his first stage was actually harder than his second stage, in my opinion. But overall, I think he was just a good fight for early. But when it comes to like later on, I don't think so. He aged well, in my opinion. I'm gonna skip ahead. I'm gonna go with Fire Giant. I did not enjoy the Fire Giant. Hot take. You can hate me on it. You can fight me for it. But I did not have fun fighting the Fire Giant. I think he was just not fun. I don't enjoy like skyscraping fights where you have to wait for so long until he does one move where he's just staggered and then you hit him a bunch of times. I think with the other fights is that you can fight him in so many different ways that it becomes fun. That's what the whole point of it is, that you can fight him in so many different ways that you can change it. But with the Fire Giant, it's that you had to wait and wait and wait, and it was just an endurance fight. It wasn't just a tactical fight, and I didn't really enjoy that. I think, to be honest, overall, I think he was a B tier. I mean, the design of him was pretty sick. His second phase is really cool. The arena was sick. You know, him in the mountain, the snowy mountains, being the Fire Giant, and what you have to do to get that, and the lore reasons. He's great, but overall, I really didn't enjoy him. I think he was just overall just an okay boss. I wouldn't put him in C tier as a bad side because he was somewhat fun. And I do like how the lore reason is you can summon Alexander to help you, and it's kind of funny seeing him run at him at full speed, and it's kind of funny. But overall, Fire Giant is just a B tier for me. For my next one, I would do Gideon. I think there's not really much for us to say. He is a joke of a boss. I mean, cool-wise, he's the lore. He's actually been watching us this whole time, and his fight style is he actually does everything. He knows all the incantations, all the summons, everything, and he's just been following us. But as a fight, he was not intimidating at all. He wasn't someone that was memorable, to be honest with you. I keep forgetting that he's the actual boss you have to fight. I think he was just put in for lore reasons, but minus that, he wasn't really that much of a memorable fight. He was okay, but he was mostly overall a laughing stock of a fight. So I would definitely put him in C tier. Godskin Duo. It's kind of funny that I would put him on B tier, just because like it's just a 2v1 fight, and I know you can cheese them by putting one of them. You can put both of them to sleep, and they keep hitting one of them, put the other one to sleep, hit them. And it's like you could cheese it like that. But to be honest with you, it was more infuriating than anything. I mean, Godskin Duo was just annoying. Maybe I would they weren't as annoying as the Fire Giant, so maybe I'll put them right there. But as an overall boss fight, maybe fighting him one-on-one, yeah, it was fun. I would definitely put him in like maybe A tier. I would like that. But when it comes to as a duo, they were just annoying. And they weren't fun at all. If I would be honest with you, I just don't really like it. They're just annoying. And then the arena you kind of fight in is kind of really packed up. And it's kind of hard to avoid them, because you're running into the pillars sometimes, and they can break the pillars, so it's like pointless to avoid them. But overall, they were okay. Last but not least, Renala. I think I would put her in B tier, of course, also. I think her first phase is like just it's just very silly. Her first phase, you have to like break her womb and then hit her again and then do the rinse and repeat. And then when you get to her second phase, I do have to admit, her second phase is kind of sick. The introduction of it, the layout of it, the moon in the background, just overall, everything about her, sick as hell. I love everything about the second phase. It is a very easy fight. Again, let's point that out. She's a very, very easy boss. And it was just, that's also the reason is like you could just keep hitting her. She has very low poised. So you could just keep stun blocking her, and it's very, very easy. So I would say she was very B tier just because how easy she was. The only thing that's kind of carrying her that's not put on C tier is just that her second introduction, and everything else about it is sick as hell. But that is overall my opinion on the Shardbearers. Let me know what you guys think. We'll definitely be doing another tier list after the DLC, because I know it's going to be sick and everything. Let me know what you guys' builds are. How'd you guys' opinion on each boss? And yeah, thank you guys for watching.